a deal that he did previously.
What was that called?
There's going to be a before, after, and after.
Yeah, there's going to be a before, after, and an after, after. So, again, if I'm not loud enough, let me know. Sometimes I'm going to go through the same thing again. It's probably going to be a little bit longer than
A
normal.
little closer.
Probably going to be a little bit longer than normal, but I'm going to try to speed through it. Ask questions if you have questions, and feel free to interrupt. This one is a property in Milford, New Hampshire, and that is the property. A little bit about me so you understand the context. I do a full-time W-2. I invest part-time. I've got 5 properties, 13 units. My strengths are really analysis, goal setting. I have this kind of white-collar hustle going on, so I work during the day, and I do real estate at night and on weekends, and then I'm really big with mindset. So that's where I think my strengths are.
A little louder.
This is my journey so far. And some of you may have seen this before. I started kind of listening to podcasts in 2018, and then I joined NHREIA in 2019. A few, 6-7 months after joining, I was under contract with my first deal, closed January 2020. COVID happened, went through that, and then I got my second in October 20, my third July 2021, the fourth March 22nd, and then this is the last one so far, May 23. And I do like telling everybody my goals because it kind of keeps me accountable to them. So if I don't tell anybody and I don't make it, nobody knows. But I tell everybody I don't make it, and I feel like shit. So my goals are within 10 years to 25,000 monthly cash flow. I don't want to miss my kids' events, and in general, I just don't want to have to worry about thinking about money. That's kind of my longer-term goal. Some of you may have seen this before. I'm a little bit crazy with planning. There's a 10-year plan above my office desk, and it's broken down by month. So I literally have a goal by month for the next 10 years. I'm just about 4 years in. So if you can tell, like I'm a very big planner. So my strategies I implement is really buy and hold. I do occasionally will do a flip for more capital, and then I will try to refi out. So some of you are familiar with that process. So this one, Milford, New Hampshire, it's a 3-unit, bought it for $415 in May. All right, I'm not loud enough. Floor 1 was a 3-bed, 2-bath, a 2-bed for the second floor, a 1-bed for the third floor. So rents at purchase were $1,400, $775, $700. So if you're not familiar with Milford, it's got national-like rents. So a 3-bed really should be going for like $1,800 to $2,000, and a 2-bed is probably like $1,600 to $1,850 or something like that, and a 1 is probably like $1,300, $1,400. Some of the other things about the building is it's pretty much in the center of Milford, like right off the Oval, literally it's walking distance. So it's a great location and a ton of parking. So if you can tell from the picture, it's got this massive parking driveway, and then off to the side it's got 2 extra spaces. So the thing can hold 10 or 12 cars. So this is massive parking. So the plan is in green. I wanted to increase rents, $2,200 for the 3-bed, $1,850, $1,350. So we're currently bringing in $2,875 at closing, and wanted to push that to $5,350. That was the goal. And then as part of that, I was going to do an eviction on 1 unit. This is kind of the plan was kind of formed after purchase. An eviction, reno of that eviction, and then rent it all out. So some of the before pictures, this was the unit I wanted to evict, right? I just, for whatever reason, like some of you know, like you can look at the picture and you kind of, you can smell it. Like it smells really bad. So like all of these units, like this one in particular smells really bad, right? And so in most of the ones that the house that I do, there's always a picture of poop that is coming. So this is the two bedroom, second floor. So the interesting thing about this one is that there was like an elderly man who lived here. On the walkthrough, the owner had walked through with me. This is off market. This this lady, a 36-year-old or 34-year-old lady, opened the door with a large dog, and she said, "Who are you?" And the owner said, "I'm the owner. Who are you?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm just a guest." And she's like, "Is that your dog?" She's like, "Oh, we were just leaving." Right. So there was a dog in there, an unauthorized guest, a large dog that pooped everywhere. It was human poop. And so this is the unit, right? This is as we were cleaning it, and then that far right picture, you can see the spots on the floor. That is poop squished into the unit. And so that's just what you get. So the reason for the eviction. So when I took over the property, it was clear that the older person was smoking in the unit, and I have this big aversion. I'm concerned that things will catch fire because I hear about all these fires in Manchester. So I was like, if he's like elderly, falling asleep everywhere. The first floor told me that he had left his stove on. They had to go bang on the door. I was like, I have to do an eviction, but he's older, so I actually organized the eviction with his daughter, who said that she would take him in, and she'd been waiting for this day. She knew it was coming. And I thought he was probably gonna die in that unit and catch the building on fire, right? So that was a successful eviction. We didn't actually have to go to court. The crazy thing, well, we'll get to that. So that happened, right? So we had 3 or 4 dumpsters of their stuff. And then these are the post-renovation photos. Like, we didn't do major renovations, it was just flooring. We did white on white on white. So this is the first time where I decided literally paint everything the same color white. Right? And I learned this trick because it doesn't look bad. It's the same color. It saves on just like painting labor. It's literally everyone just, you can paint the baseboard and the wall and the ceiling the same white, right? It was Chantilly lace, and it worked out well. Some new lighting, just fixing here and there, some new appliances. I just overall just cleaned it up. So this is what it ended up being after 5 months. So my goal was to get this to 2,200. I kept the first 4 tenants. I did not have the appetite to do another eviction. It was just so difficult. They had kids in town and there's so much stuff. I knew it was gonna take another 3-4 months to get them out. So I settled at 1950. The second floor, I put somebody in at 1875. And the third floor, I got to 1,200. So I was $225 off my goal, which isn't horrible, but I didn't have to renovate the first and third floors to get to that. The total reno, including everything, was about $27,000. That included just building maintenance. When I buy a building, I go through and put in all new smoke detectors and carbon monoxide. And just like there's certain minimum standards of, I replace all locks with electronic keypads and all that other stuff. So 27 grand was into the second unit and just the building in general. And then here are the stabilized numbers. So at the end of it, I'm at roughly a gross of $51.25 a month. I got this on a 5% loan, 80% loan to value, so at 20% down on a 30-year amortization. All the rest of this stuff that you can read, the cash flow is about, say, $2,400 a month. There's also coin-op laundry, which I didn't include, so it's a little bit more. And the cash return on this is about 22, 23%. This is like the sweet spot for me, is a 3-unit building that performs like this. Any questions on this? And then you're gonna see more of the after pictures. Poor tenant died. So it actually wasn't the old person that I thought was gonna die. He was going to catch the building on fire, and that ended up not happening. Instead, after evicting the second floor, I didn't realize that the second floor lady, who's the 34-year-old woman living with an 80-something-year-old man, she was an alcoholic, and she died of alcoholism. And then most of the belongings in the unit were actually hers, which required 3 dumpsters just to remove all that stuff. So that was like a little bit of a curveball. It took a little while. The family had to come in and just, they wanted to go through her stuff. There's just a lot of a lot of difficulty in that. Just really sad situation. Definitely had some contractor issues, like everyone does, where I just was not their priority. They literally sent me a text message saying that I wasn't their priority, and I don't respect them for that. It's at least good to know. And there was a water heater that we didn't know about, and that started leaking. And then we found it and replaced it. I should have kept, so there's a laundry room and there's coin-op laundry, and I forgot about that one. So I saw 3 water heaters in the basement with 3 units, and I assumed that was good. But apparently there's a hidden little midget water heater that was tucked into the 3rd floor. I can't say midget, can I?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so there's a, so, and then we found that, replaced that, but it had kind of leaked water all over the 2nd floor. And then just the dumpster costs, like that's one thing I always forget about, is like the dumpster is like $700-800 every time, 30 yard, and just, that, they fill so quickly, right? And I had to get 3 or 4 or 5, I don't remember, but they just kept on coming. So then the after picture. So we caught fire on Friday the 13th. And I know I saw somebody here who's got an insurance hat on. Right. So I stabilized it on October 1st. So those are the numbers that you just saw, 2,400 cash flow. And then on the 13th, I get a call at 7 p.m. So one thing I will state for the record is I did not set fire to the building. Every time I hear about fires and investors and those stuff, like the first thing that comes to mind is like there's something fishing going on, and like someone's like they're underwater in the building, and by some miracle a thing catches fire. I did not set fire to the building, right? I just stabilized this thing, and it was like a pretty horrible experience. Never gone through a fire or any major loss like that before. I had insurance. And so I can provide a little bit of information about what's going on, but to be honest, I don't know what exactly is gonna happen next, because it was just on the 13th and we're only a few weeks away from that. But I can talk about what's happened so far. So here are pictures of the basement, that burned basement. So if there are any firefighters here, I don't see any, but like they're probably used to these pictures. To me, this is like so weird to be walking through this stuff and just the smell of the smoke everywhere. This was the basement where the fire started. This was the 1st floor kitchen. So it went up through a hallway and into the kitchen. And then in here, this is the bathroom. And so when you walk into the bathroom, there's like a little bit of a wall up top. And so the fire never made it into the bathroom. It was just the smoke. But the interesting thing is, if you look above the vanity, those 4 things are light bulbs, and those have melted. Like they literally melted down and are drooping from them. And so the light fixtures melted and were dripping on the floor. The smoke detectors themselves were melted, and they had just what was the plastic had dripped onto the floors. So it was a significant fire in the basement, the 1st floor. So where I am today, that's the last slide I have, is figure out insurance. All the tenants are out. There's no power to the building. The fire took out all the circuit panels in the basement, so there's no power. They cut water to the building, and we just winterized it. So now it's like antifreeze in the toilets and the sinks and all that other stuff. And so I'm just trying to kind of figure out what happens with insurance. The tenants, it's interesting, what I found out was when the building becomes like uninhabitable, your lease is over. Your lease says that you owe them a property at this address and it's this number of bedrooms and whatever, but when that becomes unavailable, unfortunately for them, I don't owe them another place. Like they have to just go find their own housing, right? So they are kind of off on their own, they're finding their own housing, and then there's nothing I could do because like there's no rentals out there. So I didn't have another place to put them in. And now it's just like what to do with the building. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Catch on fire.
That's a twist. Yeah, it wasn't the old guy who was smoking. So that's what I thought. It didn't happen.
How much coverage did you have on the property? Did you raise the coverage after you made the building better?
So to be honest, I'm really bad at buying insurance. So I just trust my agent, and so what I do is I get insurance coverage, and then I just make sure my liability coverage is really high. So I usually increase liability coverage. So I don't even know how to answer that question. I know the number, like, and it was $598,000, but I don't know whether like you talk to the percentages or whatever. I just know I had $598 enough coverage. I bought it for $415. So I don't know if that answers your questions. I don't even know how to answer it. I don't really, I've never read my policy.
Just, do you know how much the, renovation's gonna run?
Yes, well, no. I can tell you. So, I can tell you my experience is the insurance company, I called them Friday night, they have a 24-hour hotline. I called them, and the next day, my phone was just ringing off the hook. And every single call I thought was the insurance company. It is not the insurance company. All these people are calling because they heard about the fire, wanted to sell me things. So ServPro, disaster recovery, all those services started calling this morning. And then public adjusters started calling me. So they call and they call like, hey, are you calling from the insurance company? I'm like, no, I'm a public adjuster. I'm like, then after the third call, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I get it. You're all just ambulance chasers, right? So I'm just getting tons of calls from these people. And they're like, well, we can do the adjustment on the building. So that's where they get the estimate. So the insurance company hires their own, at least in this case, they have their own independent adjuster, and he goes and estimates the damage. If I want to, I can hire my own adjuster to go estimate the same damages, but I'm paying him, not the insurance company. And I guess the way that we're doing it is the public adjuster gets a percentage of the estimate that's agreed upon, right? So, like I don't have, actually I have those numbers yet because it's so early, but I think the independent adjuster that's paid by the insurance company says it's like 125,000, and my public adjuster says it's like $500,000, right? And so they do the same job in the same way, but they are paid by different people, and I guess that's what makes the difference. So I don't know whether that's good or bad. I'm just figuring it out right now.
Hey, I have two questions. First, like, how did you get the lead? Because I think that's a pretty good price for Milford. And then the second question would just be like, are you getting for your best rent during the period?
Yeah, so the first question, how did I get it? My wife got this one. So, like, I was telling somebody earlier, like, your network is your net worth. Like, so my wife and I volunteered on the board of a preschool. And my wife loves to go out to dinner and breakfast and whatever with everybody. So she was going out to breakfast with a prior teacher at the preschool who happened to own that property down the street. And while they're at breakfast, my wife's like, "Didn't you say you owned a rental?" She's like, "Yeah, it's like around the corner." And they were in Milford, and they're like, "Oh, like, are you looking to sell it?" Like, and we bought it to pay for my son's college. He just graduated, and Susan was like, "Yeah, well, we'll buy it." Right, so we bought it. It was an easy transaction. So if you're always in the game, like, then you don't miss these things. But if you're not playing, somebody else will get it. And then for the misrent, so my coverage has loss of income for 12 months. It covers that. I did not get that yet. I didn't actually get anything yet. So I'm expecting it at some point, but I'm gonna have to float it until it happens. I did get an advance check for damages. But what happens is if you have a lien on the property, so NBT Bank holds the note, the check is made out to the bank, the lien holder, and you. So that what happens is I have to go open an account at NBT with them and myself as the owner, and I can't touch the money. They have to basically allow me to draw money from that balance. And so basically, I have to send them invoices and bills, and then they will give me access to that money.
What's the margin?
5%, 20% down, 30-year amortization.
You get 5%.
It was the Chinese discount. So this was in May, and there just weren't a lot of transactions. And I called them. I had tried to use them before. It didn't work out, and I was just like, hey, listen, I want to use you guys. I've been hearing about you. I tried to stick with the same banks that I normally use, but their rates were much higher. I was like, what can you do? And do you have a portfolio product? And they said, we did. We can get creative. And I just asked for it, and they said yes.
A lot of places are 7.5.
Yeah, timing is everything, right?
So I have a